changes to properties located within the city's 7 historic districts and buildings designated as local landmarks, as well as to conduct other historic preservation-related business consistent with Article 11 of the Land Development Code. The board is made up of Lakeland citizens appointed by the City Commission and is assisted by staff of the Community and Economic Development Department and the City Attorney's Office. The first meeting comprises the Historic Preservation Board agenda, where business of the board is handled, including recommendations of new historic designations. The second meeting consists of the Design Review Committee agenda and involves staff regarding certificate of review applications for major work proposed to properties within the historic districts or landmark buildings. The Design Review Committee is a standing subcommittee of the Historic Preservation Board. Public input is welcomed for items on the Design Review Committee's agenda, and we invite everyone who wishes to participate to be heard. We ask that all speakers come up to this one of the central podiums here and state their name and address for the record. Thank you for your interest and participation today, and please silence all mobile devices at this time. And with that, I will turn the meeting over to our board chair, Mr. Christopher Olson.
Thank you, Emily. All right, the June 22nd, 2023 meeting, Historic Preservation Board is called to order. First item of business will be roll call termination of quorum. Myself, Chris Olson here, Melinda Rinker.
Here.
Bruce Anderson. Here. Lynn Dennis.
Here.
Landis Fleming.
Here.
Natalie Oldenkamp.
Here.
Cesar Perez.
Here.
Michael Porter.
Here.
Brittany Wilson. All right, nearly full board. So we do have a quorum. Any corrections or additions to last month's minutes?
Second.
Wow, that was a triple second.
All right.
All right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on. Old business. Historic Preservation Board Annual Review and Lakeland Historic District Resurvey Project Phase 1 results and a recommendation workshop to be held immediately following today's Historic Preservation Board and Design Review meetings in this very room. New business. I don't have anything on the list. Does anyone have items they want to bring to the table? All right, it's going to be a quick meeting. Chair, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. On to the design review meeting.
That's me. Yeah. Okay, first of all, we're going to call to order and determine a quorum. Myself, present. Chris Olson.
Present.
Lynn Dennis.
Here.
Landis Fleming.
Here.
Natalie Oldenkamp.
Here.
Cesar Perez.
Here.
Michael Porter.
Here.
The June 22nd, 2023 meeting of the Design Review Committee is called to order with the first item of business being a roll call, which we just did, and determination of a quorum, which we have. Good morning. Welcome to my mistakes. Have to have a minimum of one every single meeting. Let's see. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Second.
All in favor of the adoption of the May 25th, 2023 Design Review Committee meeting minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And it passes. Let's see, we're going to review the certificates of review that were administratively approved between May 11th and June 12th. There are 21 cases, and on here, I believe it's page 9. If everybody wants to take a moment to look back over this, see if there's any questions. Any questions for staff or discussions on any of this? Okay. There is no motion required on that. We're going to start the public portion of the hearing. And if we can ask the Assistant City Attorney, Alex Landback, to administer the oath, please.
Planning to speak before this committee today, could you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Our first case is HPB 23-101, 412 West Park Street. Final approval is requested for the conversion of an existing carport into 2 enclosed recreational rooms or on the subject property. The owner applicant is Mr. Francisco Chirino. Are there any conflicts of interest among the committee members? Seeing none. Emily, would you read the staff report and recommendations, please?
The subject property consists of an interior lot of record with a total area of .27 acres. And the subject property contains a 1-story masonry vernacular duplex structure built circa 1958, which is a non-contributing building in the Dixieland Historic District. The applicant requests to enclose an existing 2-car carport to convert the structure into 2 game rooms for use by the tenants of the duplex. The carport dimensions are 20 feet wide by 28 feet long for a total of 560 square feet. Exterior materials used to enclose the carport consist of fiber cement panel siding, vinyl single-hung sash windows, and 6-pane steel doors. The roof of the structure has been re-roofed with Galvalume rib metal roof panels. This request was prompted by code enforcement action and a stop work order was issued. Most of the exterior work, including new siding, roofing, and window and door installation, has been completed. As an existing accessory structure, the building setbacks are consistent with the requirements of the Land Development Code. And this just shows elevation drawings of the structure as proposed. So each game room will have an interior bathroom with washer-dryer hookups and an additional exterior laundry room. And this request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines referenced. So in evaluating the request with the standards, staff finds that the proposed accessory structure does not disturb the spatial relationships of the principal house, and its setting and integrity is maintained. Furthermore, the structure's location in the backyard behind the duplex and screened by a privacy fence makes it not visible from West Park Street. In evaluating the request with the design guidelines, staff finds that the materials of the accessory structure are mostly consistent with the design guidelines. The Galvalume rib metal roofing that has been installed on the structure is not consistent with the design guidelines in terms of allowable metal roofing or architectural style of the structure, and therefore should be replaced with asphalt or fiberglass shingles. And finally, while not a concern related to the design guidelines or design review committee purview, the additional washer-dryer hookups in the bathrooms of each game room are a zoning concern and should be removed to prevent the structure from being illegally used as additional dwelling units on the subject property. As this property is zoned for single-family residential use, the legal non-conforming duplex existing on the property precludes the ability to establish additional dwelling units on it. So staff recommends final approval of the request with the following conditions to be approved by staff prior to building permitting. Number 2, remove the washer-dryer hookups in the bathrooms of each game room. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is the applicant here? And would you like to say anything in support of your request? If so, please come to, can you please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please? Thank you.
Yes, I don't like the idea of having to remove the metal roof, but it is what it is, so.
Is there any public comment in support or opposition to the request from the audience? Any committee members have questions for the applicant regarding the request? I do. You're fine with removing the washer-dryer hookups?
I'm fine with it. I mean, I see all the way around my property that they have sheds on the back with metal roof. So, but I'm not the historic commission. You guys have the last word on that. And whatever you agree upon doing, that's what it will be done.
And you're okay with removing the washer and dryer hookups?
As far as that, I don't have a problem with it.
Comments? We're going to end the public comment portion of the request and move to the committee portion. Is there any discussion? And we're going to close the public portion. Is there any committee discussion of the request with respect to the consistency with the historic preservation standards?
Why is this coming to us after the fact, given to us by code enforcement?
Because the work was done without permits. It was
Okay,
caught.
they filed no permits. They
Correct.
just went ahead and did the work.
Correct.
We never heard it.
Right.
And my next thing is,
Dennis, can you speak into the microphone, please?
well, that would help. Sorry, Alex. So my next question is, since it's not on our purview to vote on one way or the other, why is the washer-dryer hookup in the bathrooms on the staff recommendation?
That's a good point, and the committee can remove that condition if
Okay.
it feels
I
appropriate.
yeah. I mean, I get the gist of why code enforcement is concerned, but if it's not in our purview, then we shouldn't be addressing it.
And that concern will be handled on the building permitting side
Right.
as well.
So I have a question. Would it be acceptable for him to have metal roof if it's the acceptable kind, like a standing seam or 5V without the ribs on it? And that's the objection with that, because
No, not in this case. So only certain architectural styles are eligible for a 5V crimp or standing seam roof. And since this is a mid-century modern structure, it's not eligible.
Saying the metal roof is not permissible?
Correct, for this architectural style. It's a 1950s concrete block, mid-century modern, which is not one of the approved architectural styles that is eligible for a metal roof.
Even though it's not seen from the street?
Yes,
Not contributing?
Is it,
it's non-contributing, yeah. Again, that's a strict interpretation of the design guidelines and the roofing policy. If the committee feels that that is too strict, that's up
I
to
mean,
your
because that's
purview.
I think we've discussed that before in some degrees and I believe Landis brought that up the last time we had a building where they were requesting to have the metal roof in lieu of shingles, and I kind of agreed with Landis of it's always considered an upgrade for most people, and the fact that it's not there more frequently and not in those styles is often just a money concern. Because I mean, I'm going through it right now. I'm looking to replace my roof because insurance is making me do that on my own home, and I would love to do metal roof, but the cost of it at this particular moment, I can't do it. So I tend towards the aspect of, from a homeowner myself in the area, that if I had the money, I'd absolutely do a metal roof. And I wouldn't particularly care about the style that it relates to, and we don't have too many styles where it absolutely isn't compatible, I'd say, from a historic perspective, because people did it when they had the money.
I'd say, given this isn't a contributing building, it's not visible from the street, it's not the primary building, that the impact is not.
And to answer the homeowner's concern, usually you're probably seeing that on all the sheds in your area because they are sheds that are not under our purview if they're smaller. And then so you're able to do whatever you want. It's usually a pre-made shed or it's something that's smaller than the 300 square foot requirement. So it doesn't even come up for our review. So.
But there are sheds, all shapes and sizes with metal roof on that area.
right, but the sheds, because of their size, we don't typically, they're not for us to have to approve. So we do more the homes and regular
There are
buildings.
sheds that are the same size or
Right.
bigger than the one that I have, and actually I have pictures of those within 2 blocks around mine.
Understand, but that's not what's in play.
I
here. So
I do understand.
we can talk about it.
Or, yeah, or
You
they
know,
never
it's
came
like,
under purview,
If you wouldn't
so.
get caught, you wouldn't be here neither. Like, you know, like, we understand all of that, and we want to try to help you, but there's guides and rules in place just for that. You know, because if not, we're gonna lose every historic building in the city. Because if we don't keep an eye out, then everybody can do whatever they want, and that's not what we're here for. So we understand that there might be other cases. That's not what's in play here, so it's not gonna help any of us right now.
In this case, if it's
I
already
just-
non-contributing, it's already non-contributing, so I don't see it much of a factor. Because normally I'm like, let's not double down on something that might make it non-contributing in the future. In this case, it's already there, and there's really no mechanism in a lot of cases for us getting it back unless it's resurveyed, and we're not there yet.
Bruce.
With Caesar on this, the problem here is precedent. And, you know, if we're going to make variances for things because it's out of sight or because, you know, it's an upgrade or something like that, that needs to be written into the rules, and it's not there. And if it's not in the rules, we need to support staff on this. It may be a strict reading of the rules, but there's nothing over the line here, I don't think.
I agree with Bruce, and I would like to go with what staff recommends.
So, back to one of y'all's questions about the type of metal. We realize that that type of metal isn't allowed at all, and there's the 5V crimp something. I will learn these terms at some point. So if we were to say, okay, you can go with metal, what is the standard for metal, and can you give us that information, please?
Sure. So for certain architectural styles such as Craftsman Bungalow, Queen Anne, Colonial Revival, Frame Vernacular, all of those styles are eligible for a metal roof, but they have to be either a 5V crimp, which it's a roofing panel with 5 V-shaped crimps on it, or true standing seam, which is, again, just the seams are covered with like a little J seam. So those are historical metal roofing profiles that the Secretary of the Interior Standards approve of, and that's why we've written those specific guidelines into our guidelines. Does that make sense?
Yes, and if it's not metal, what are the normally approved types of roof for this type of building?
Typically, this would just be a shingle roof.
Shingle? Okay.
Yeah, it probably had the 3-tab shingles, you know, in the beginning. It may have even had asbestos roofing originally. I'm not sure what the original roofing material was, but shingles are appropriate for this age of building.
And any type of shingle, whether it's the flat or the architectural, would be acceptable?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a non-contributing building. We're looking at questions, washer dryer hookup is not in our purview, but that will go back before building code, building department. And we're looking at the metal roof. Any other discussion here? Go ahead, Landis.
In regards to setting a precedent, we have done that at almost every meeting. Basically, if a building is not in sight of the street, we've allowed things to go through. Second, if this is a code violation, why are we entering into it? Why is not code enforcing their code?
They are. He's going through the proper processes with code enforcement, and one of those requirements was to get a certificate of review for the work that he's done.
Because of that, he had to come before us because it is a,
Because it's an accessory structure over 300 square feet, which puts it in the design review committee's purview.
Also thought I had read earlier in here that the washer-dryer hookup was to keep it from being converted to a living area.
Correct. The zoning of the property does not allow any additional dwelling units on the property.
What is the zoning?
It's RA4, which is single family,
Okay.
and there's already a duplex, a legal non-conforming duplex. So it has 2 units already.
Okay.
Regardless, I think we should remove that requirement because code enforcement do it, but even anyway, it shows it as storage, even though to me, I'm like, yes, that's obviously where you could put a shower if you're planning on renting those units out, and you'd be in violation of that, because that's another trigger. If they don't have a shower, it's not a valid accessory dwelling unit because you haven't provided facilities for them, so.
Okay. Anybody with a motion to encompass all of this?
I'll make a motion to go for it. I would make a motion that we accept staff recommendations as only number 1 and remove number 2 from the recommendations.
Is there a second?
That would be making it a shingle roof, but not worrying about the,
Yeah, that's not a hill I'm willing to
Laundry.
die on. I mean, that's more of a philosophical question of this, of I understand that that's a strict reading of the guidelines of that they're not fitting within that style. I would somewhat disagree with that in the general guidelines, but I'm not willing to die on that hill. It's perfectly acceptable, strict reading of the code. So, yes, so asking them to do shingles in lieu of,
I want to say this, you mentioned it earlier, as times continue on this path, it'll be harder for people to get insurance. And it'll be very hard with a shingles, even if it's new. So I don't know if obviously it's not going to be today, but we got to take that in mind, because if no one's living in those houses, then we got a bigger problem. And if people can't get insurance, I wouldn't buy a house, because you never know what's going to happen, especially in an old house, right? So
the question
I
will come
think
up more frequently.
if it's not contributing, I will be okay with trying to set precedent. Like I always try to err on the person's side and on the non-contributing factor. It's already not contributing. It's not going to come back. I mean, it's a small shed in the back of the house that no one can see. So, but not just that case. It might be a non-contributing home that someone's going to call their first home and they can't get insurance. And then we're tying those people down. And then we're just going to have an abandoned home. And I don't think that's our purpose here. So we got to err on the careful side of not setting precedent, but we also got to think about the implications that it might bring in the
Reality.
future when we have homes that no one can buy because there's no insurance company. I mean, I'm going through that. I'm not even a non-contributing. I'm not in a historic district, and I got a new roof 3 years old, and they're making me pay premiums to keep my insurance. And it's a metal roof. That's the best type of roof you want on this climate. It's going to give you 30 plus years. A shingles roof, you got to change every 10 years, every 5 years if you're not.
A point of order, do we have a second to that motion?
We do not yet, and I was going to clarify.
That has to happen
That's-
before we discuss.
Thank you. So, quick question on your motion. Your motion is to leave number 1 in place. They would have to replace it with shingles,
And
but
strike number 2.
remove number 2. So a yes vote would be to only deal with the roof, correct? Okay. Do we have a motion after that? Then we can discuss further. A second, sorry. Number 2.
Second.
Okay.
Just for
Now
discussion
for further
purposes.
discussion on this.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Caesar. I mean, having lived through the whole roofing situation also, for a non-contributing building, and I know strict legal follow the guidelines, but you have to deal with the reality of current times. And I personally don't have an issue with the metal roof remaining. but that's just one person, so.
So that's another issue, though. If it's
Yeah, but it'd
remaining,
have
it's
to
a
be
metal
the-
roof that's not
It has to be
applicable,
a
'cause it looked like it
conforming,
was
it would
a-
have to be
a PBR roof,
replaced one
so.
way or the other, basically.
Oh, sorry. Bruce?
My concern here is not about a metal roof. My concern here is that we are de facto amending these guidelines. And if we're going to make amendment according to the conditions of the insurance market, we're going to be very busy here. And we're going to have to meet a lot more than once a month because the insurance business is changing daily. And the legislature has refused to address the central problem, which is the expense of insurance under conditions in Florida. We're going to have to live with that. And it may be, I'm not suggesting this is a silly idea. I'm suggesting that we either do it and make those amendments to these guidelines and say, look at the insurance situation with roofing right now is such that we can no longer make these requirements. Or we
not.
say
We'd
we're going to
actually
hold
be-
on and hope that the insurance companies take a hand in
We'd
be-
supporting us.
And we can definitely hold a separate workshop to discuss policy.
I think that might be in order.
Yeah.
So what I was going to clarify is it would be a loosening, because it's not like it's not getting any stricter. We'd be loosening it so that metal roof applies to more types of homes. Essentially, I'd say most of them would be able to do them, except for the Spanish Revival type homes that have a flat roof on that wouldn't get them, but that doesn't make sense for them anyway. It'd be a loosening because the question is going to come before us more often because people, when they're asked, am I going to replace a roof every 10 years or do I replace it every 30 based on what insurance is doing, people are going to logically say they're going to make a cost-benefit analysis and they're going to be coming to us more often. And if they want the metal roof, we're actually telling them to go with the cheaper option or more expensive one in the long term as well. So it's a weird economic question that's probably going to come before us more frequently.
It's not that weird a question. It's a good question, but it's going to be followed by others. My house is almost 100 years old and does not have a concrete apron. That means that I have to go to Citizens for insurance because no other insurance company will cover it. If you look at the historic contributing buildings in my neighborhood, a lot of them are in the same spot. What happens if Citizens goes upend, which it may? You know, it's no longer fully funded, and more people are jumping onto the ice, and that ice is getting thinner day by day. And it's not just roofs. It has to do with the central construction of housing.
Okay.
This is not a contributing building, and that's a key. So the fact that you're in a historic home puts you under a different
Different
set
purview
of
altogether.
requirements
Of course.
around
Mr. Fleming,
non-contributing.
Mr. Fleming, can you speak into the microphone, please?
But these are the same. These restrictions are the same for contributing and non-contributing, correct, for the roof? Otherwise, we wouldn't
That's
have the
correct.
staff report.
But most contributing buildings have more options. I mean, and for the time that I've been here, we always, with non-contributing, we got more leeway. I mean,
This is not a shed.
it's not contributing home.
This is a game room.
It's a not contributing home. Like, the home itself is not contributing. It's not doing anything. Like, if you put that house anywhere else, it would be non-contributing. I mean, that's not what we want to save here. I mean,
Why-
if the case was that the guy wanted to demo it, we wouldn't even be having this conversation and put a new home there. Like, it's not contributing. At the end of the day,
Except that
we-
it can't because of zoning.
yeah, but we
Couldn't
could
put a home there.
Like, if it's a not contributing home and the style doesn't, that's what's in case here, the roof. So the thing is, do we want to allow the roof or we don't? He still got to make changes because that's not a metal roof. So he
Approve
still
anyway,
has,
yeah.
but he could keep the metal roof. I mean,
And replace it.
he needs
with
to
a-
change it. We're not saying not change it. I'm just saying it's not contributing. Do we want to set the precedent like we always do for non-contributing homes? I mean, if they're not contributing homes, I don't even know why we're talking about them in this.
Emily,
It's because they're inside the district, but at the end of the day,
can you pull up the photo to show the building? Do we have a street view or what are we,
Principal structure, you mean?
right?
House.
Yep.
Can't see it.
You can't see it.
You can't see the back building at all. Where is the back building in,
It's directly behind the duplex.
directly behind? Okay. Okay, so let's clarify Michael's motion one more time.
So the motion that I was making, and it's mostly, to be honest, move this, would be to keep staff's first recommendation to be shingles that comply, but remove the second one.
Okay, and did we have a second? We have a second. So let's do a roll call on that. So a yes vote would be requiring it to go to shingles. A no vote, we can come back if we need to and look at metal. So myself, yes. Chris Olson?
Yes.
Lynn Dennis? Landis Fleming? Natalie Oldenkamp? Yes. Cesar Perez? Michael Porter?
Yes.
Okay, and the yeses have it. So go ahead, and that is to put shingles on it, and you'll deal with the washer dryer hookups with building department, city, et cetera, et cetera.
I have a question regarding the metal roof. I'll go with shingle, but can you pull that building back up? There's a section on the other side of the building, like this here.
Low. Mm-hmm.
If I replace that for shingle, it's not going to be very, it's going to be an issue with them.
They do rolled roofing, the heated rolled roofing down on that low portion.
Can that metal be kept on that section?
No, because of the way we just voted. You would do, my understanding, because I've had the flat roof or shallow roof line, and they do a rolled roofing down there, and then they bring the shingle, and that comes up a little bit, and they do the shingles over top of that. Typically, it's very difficult to even see that low level decline on that. So you mostly don't see that rolled roofing. You see the uptake on the shingles in my experience.
Would be acceptable for accessory structure.
So. Yes. But that's code. Anyway, yeah. So that would be going back to the city, getting whatever permit you need for the roof, and you'll do the roof, and then they'll come back, they'll do the inspections, et cetera.
I'm sorry. Okay, I
you very
guess I'll
much.
be replacing a $15,000 metal roof for a $5,000 shingle roof.
Well, and
The value of following the city's rules
And
and
permitting.
permitting your building would have saved you $15,000.
Also recommend shop around. My house is a lot bigger than that, and my quotes were a lot. Last year, having to go through roofs, I was $18,000 to put metal on my entire home at 12,000 square feet. Shop around. You can get better prices for that.
I'm gonna have to do that after this.
Yeah.
thank you very much
sir.
for your time.
Sir, I have a Tudor home that has that same slope above the front door, and I'm about to get another new shingle roof on it, and it works fine. So it'll be fine. You won't have problems with that.
I won't have problems with that flatter roof to begin with. It'll last a few years, but it's not like the one that I'm throwing away will last forever. And when I say forever, I mean I probably have another 20 years, so that is my forever.
Right, so see who can come and salvage that, and I don't know what the process is for pulling that off gently to be able to perhaps resell and
Now,
at least save some of your
let me ask you a
money.
question. This might be a pretty stupid question, but What if I get fined for having that metal roof, and I don't care how high that fine might be? I pay a fine to the city for,
That would be handled through code enforcement.
huh?
That would be handled through code enforcement in their process.
To be frank, I'm not even sure we have fines within our,
We do.
within our code. We do? Okay.
We do.
I guess it's never gotten to
So-
that point with some people, so.
Yeah, and sometimes they are
Oh, there we go,
cumulative
the
on a
roof.
daily basis, so they add up over time.
And they add up quite extensively. I would suggest going to the code enforcement meetings and listening to some of those. They are very enlightening. So, thank you very much. And anything else? We're going to move to the next one.
Okay, so I'll keep the washer hook up and replace the roof.
That is up to the city code enforcement and building
building.
department.
The building inspection division. So you'll have to get with them regarding that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our next case is HPB 23-104, 832 South Clayton Avenue. Final approval is requested for replacement of windows and a sliding glass door in the house on the subject property. The owner applicant is James and Deborah Witten. Are there any conflicts of interest among the committee members?
Myself.
Okay. And then you would, do we need to know the reason for the conflict, Emily, or no?
I believe, and Alex, correct me, Chris have to do like a form, fill out a form?
Yeah.
regarding
There'll have
that?
to be a form filled out,
Okay.
yeah.
Which will
Usually
explain.
I expect a form from
Okay.
Christelle.
Okay, so Chris will be excused from this one. However, Chris can join in the conversation and participate in it otherwise. Emily, can you read the staff report and recommendations, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the subject property is located at the northwest corner of South Clayton Avenue and McDonald Place, and this property is .24 acres in size. The property contains a two-story, single-family house built circa 1947, which is a non-contributing building in the Biltmore, Cumberland Historic District. Stylistically, the house is a modern hip cottage. The applicant's request to replace 28 dark-framed metal double-hung sash windows located throughout the house with 14 double-hung sash windows, 8 horizontal slider windows, 2 fixed windows, and 1 awning window matching the existing window openings. All replacement windows will be white vinyl and will not have a simulated divided light appearance. The reason for this request is due to the existing windows not being operable or energy efficient. An existing sliding glass door will also be replaced with a similarly sized vinyl sliding glass door. However, this can be approved administratively by staff. Because the replacement windows do not match the existing windows in design or type, as required by the design guidelines for historic properties, this request was referred to the Design Review Committee for consideration. And the request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines listed here. So as a non-contributing building, the subject house can be afforded some flexibility from the strict interpretation of the design guidelines. Additionally, the applicants state in their application that the existing windows are 33 years old, which indicates these windows are not original to the subject house built circa 1947. Staff finds that the double-hung sash replacement windows without a divided light appearance are acceptable replacement windows where proposed. Staff finds that the use of fixed and horizontal slider windows are acceptable replacement windows for the large window on the front or west facade. However, for all other fixed horizontal slider and awning replacement windows that are proposed, double-hung sash windows should be used in accordance with the design guidelines. So staff recommends approval of the request with the following conditions. Number 1, all replacement windows must match existing window or window opening size. All replacement windows shall be recessed from the exterior wall face to the exterior window glass to provide a shadow line. Flush-mounted replacement windows are not permitted. Number 3, muntins sandwiched between double-pane glazing shall not be permitted except when installed beneath exterior mounted muntins. And number 4, all paired or grouped windows shall be installed with a dividing mullion of at least 3 inches in width between adjoining windows. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Is the applicant here today, and would you like to come up and speak? Please speak into the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
I live at 832 South Clayton Avenue.
Please raise the microphone a little bit. There you go.
Jim Witten. I live at 832 South Clayton Avenue, Lakeland, Florida. And this is my wife.
And I'm Deborah Witten. I reside at 832 South Clayton Avenue in Lakeland.
Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to take a minute. We're probably the oldest continuous homeowners on our street, South Clayton. We bought the house in May of 1990. Obviously, it was a bit of a different scene in May of 1990. We didn't have 3 additional schools put next to us by Florida Southern. We had the United Methodist headquarters, a nice, quiet in neighborhood. My wife's a school teacher, retired a year ago this past month. Used to listening to screaming kids. Obviously, when she retired, she didn't want to do that. So obviously, one of the main reasons for the window request, these are the double-paned gas in between to cut the noise. We have 2 playgrounds right next to our house. Also, it's not as easy now for me to hang boards over these single-pane windows, and especially on the second story. It's much easier when I was 30-something than when I'm 60-something. So obviously, that's a big reason. And also the insurance cost. My insurance went up from $3,300 annually to $5,100 annually this year. And I called all around, and no one's going to reinsure the house because of the age of it, because of the type roof. You know, I even offered to put a new roof on, but they said it didn't matter because the house was built before a certain year. So it's, I could probably go to Citizens, but I still have a better price through Allstate subsidiary. But, you know, our big thing is we need to have some noise reduction. We have Harrison right there. You know, they have a million events. They're parking right beside us, doors slamming. 5 o'clock once a week, we hear the giant dumpster picked up for Florida Southern, for the schools. You know, we have kids screaming all day long. Chris can probably, he lives way down the street from us, but he can still hear
I can hear it in my house.
And we're the house right next to him. The other thing that kind of was questionable to us, the house directly across the street from us, which is owned by a retired Lakeland Regional employee, he got almost the exact slider windows we wanted approved in 2012, well after it was historic. So I brought pictures of that. So we didn't really understand. He got the double paned with gas to reduce the noise. So I don't know why it's causing a problem for us to put those sound reducing windows in. So I brought a picture in of the house and the sliders they have. And these are the house sliders right in front of the, facing the road. And that's when they had that done.
Emily, do we have a way to view those?
I know we do
We'll
at
have to
the
pass
old,
them
yeah,
around.
the old
Okay.
conference room.
Also, I brought multiple pictures of other houses right by ours that have the same thing. And actually, that house, if you can look back, you'll see that's a contributing house. Ours is non-contributing. The back half of our house was added in after 1970. So that's obviously why it's non-contributing. It's not a 1947 cottage. Half the structure is an addition. But he was able to add those double-paned gas windows to reduce. So and it's directly across the street, 829 South Clayton Avenue. You can see all the other houses that haven't had to replace with the little great grids in them. And ours aren't the original grid windows anyways. Ours are old metal windows that were put in the whole house when the back half addition was added. So they're not anywhere near from the 40s, so. 829 South Clayton, directly across the street from ours. And he's the only other one that's right next to the playground. Now also, the city has allowed the house behind us to become a short-term rental. So that's additional noise. It's an Airbnb VBRO. So, you know, they've done nothing but make it more difficult for us. We've been there 33 years, raised both of our girls there. I can't even walk the dog at night because you redid the road on McDonald and they won't put speed bumps in. I'm going to get run over by a drunk Florida Southern student, you know, one night a week. In fact, I've been out there with water bottles when they've stopped their car to sleep it off. And I've never picked up so many Mike's Hard Lemonade beer cans in my life. Every day, my dog and I, every weekend, go up and pick Mike's Hard Lemonade cans out of the bushes over there on the little hill next to the house. But
Let me add something.
go ahead.
And I just wanted to add something too. When we first moved here 44 years ago, The first 25 years, we never had a problem with hurricanes. But the last 20 years, they're becoming more prevalent and ferocious. And when I say that, I say winds in excess of 90 to 110 miles an hour. And our windows are not hurricane resistant. And like my husband said, they're not energy efficient and they're not sound resistant. So we just, in all honesty, but for safety more than anything, I would like to feel comfortable and, when we have, God forbid, another hurricane.
And the new windows are rated up to 139.9 as far as wind protection from the hurricane.
Okay. And is there, yes, so is that the last of your comments for the moment in support of this? Okay.
Represented by the company West Shore Homes that will be installing the windows.
He's here if you need some questions
Okay.
for him.
And so we're going to, we're in the public comment portion. Are there any board members that would like to comment publicly? Bruce.
I actually have two questions, and it's really more for you guys than it is for the applicants. The first is that given the flexibility that we have on houses like this, why are the first windows approved and the second windows not approved?
And that may be a question for Emily or for code enforcement as to whether those were actually approved. I don't know on 829.
I mean, I'm reading through the staff report, and the staff report seems to suggest that the majority of the windows that they're trying to replace are approved, and there doesn't seem to be a problem as long as they're within the parameters. But that there are these other windows that have somehow not been approved, and you're pointing to. And so that's my first question. The second question, drunken Florida Southern students aside, and noise issues aside, the safety level of windows that you're trying to put in here, I think, should be a concern of the board here, as well as environmental effects. You're going to have some energy saving here that you might not ordinarily have. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir. We even did tests when we bought them. They bring the hot light, and you can, yeah, that's another reason we bought them.
Okay.
But yeah, you can put the heat lamp in front of them and you can't feel it. You put them through our current windows, you can burn your hand just like that. But they're just single paned. I mean,
So can I clarify what the recommendations are on there? Because the way that I'm reading it is we're not saying that you can't have double pane glazing. I think it's more in regards to the muttons of it with that, which is, it sounds like they're saying a 1/1 and is what you're going to, and the only thing that I'm seeing there is that when you do double pane, to not do the muttons inside unless they also have the exterior muttons on them. So
Correct. I mean, the assumption and what the window specifications say is that they're 1/1 without sandwiched grids or exterior grids.
So I'm guessing what is the city saying, and what is your request as a homeowner? Is it simply you want the sliders as well with that, and as well as the double hung sash? So
these were easy to open, easy to clean. I wouldn't necessarily have to get up there and lay plywood every time there was a storm.
And I can't even open some of the windows.
And as it is, I mean.
that's the existing. What are you asking to be put on as new that's different than the recommendations? Because I'm not seeing anything in the recommendations that say you can't essentially either replace what you have with the same style of muttons.
And we were told gridded windows. They had to be gridded windows. In other words, whatever window's existing, it had to be the exact replica of what's already currently there. And the company that would be installing them, it's not their style, am I right? You don't have the gridded approach.
Right, and let me clarify, because my recommendation, I can see where it can be confusing. Where I do mention in number 3, the muntins, that's only if they should change their mind about not going with a 1/1 window and decide to do the sandwiched muntins or sandwich grids. We don't want that look.
So if they went
with
the one-on-one, they could do what they're trying to do here.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
This recommendation is for approval of a 1/1 window.
So you can have the double pane
That's
with
what
the
your neighbors
gas in
have, except
between.
they
You
have some
just have to
sliders.
have the muttons on the outside of the window. Is that accurate, Emily?
Saying that we're supporting their 1/1, so no muntins.
No muntins.
No muntins. Okay.
The muntin comment is, again, only if
Muttons
They're-
are optional. Muttons are optional.
Sir, if you would just give your name and address for the record?
My name is, you want my personal address or the?
Business addresses.
My name is Derek Swanson. Good morning. I'm here on behalf of 832 South Clayton Avenue in Lakeland. Y'all are discussing muttons and grids, all of that. We're not actually doing, we're not doing any grids on the house. As far as what it is, you're just going to have one light, then the other light, whether it's a hung window or a slider, regardless of the configuration. We're not doing any grids in between the glass or anything. I understand exactly what you're talking about the muttons in the glass. You wanted an exterior grid for the historical value of it, but we're not doing any. They're just going to be flat glass.
Then I don't think we have any disagreement here. You'll be able to get what your neighbors have, which is they have a 1/1 or they have plain no mutton sliders on there, that you can do that with the double pane glass. We're not opposed to that. I think that we're misunderstanding perhaps the wording of the staff recommendation, that if you were to do that, if you were to say add the muttons, which it appears that West Shore Homes does not have anyway, that's what you would be required to do, is to have them on the inside as well as the outside. And that's to maintain consistency with what the historic area. So staff puts that in there to cover themselves, so essentially you don't have to come back to us if you were to do that. She could approve it administratively, and then you wouldn't need to come back next month or whenever they get installed. So I don't think we're in any opposition here. I think you can get what you want. We're sympathetic to that, and yeah.
I apologize for the
So we're just
confusion
here
with the
today to
recommendation.
ask for your permission and approval to proceed with the project. And
due
if so,
process.
how long does it take to get the permit so they can get the ball rolling? Because now we're well into hurricane season, and we've been trying to do this for months to get this implemented so that we don't have a major catastrophe again.
So that would be between him and the city in pulling permits and whatnot.
As soon as the committee makes a decision, if to approve your request, we would be able to turn around a building permit, I would say, between 3 to 5 business days.
It's fairly quick, yeah.
I have a question for y'all, if you don't mind. With number 4, the dividing mullion of at least 3 inches. Typically for what we do to meet up with the hurricane codes and everything for Florida, we're doing a mullion in between the windows of 1 inch. But I'm assuming because of y'all's, you're focused on the historical, so is that 3 inches from glass to glass? Because the frame of our windows is wider than 3 inches, so visibly from the street, you're going to have 4 to 6 inches from glass to glass on the outside. Is that enough to comply with?
I've always taken that as
Emily.
the trim, because I get what you're saying. When you butt 2 windows up there and you have your jamb in between them, I think the concern is just that it shows the essentially like a 1x3 kind of trim that would cover. Normally, if you're doing a 2x4 jack in there and you put a piece of trim over top of it, that's what we want it to look like, as if it was built historically. I think that's all it is. We're not concerned about what's behind it so much as it looks like the 1x3 trim put in front of it.
So you want 3 inches between the windows?
At least. So
Emily?
if you got more,
Yes?
you got more.
Okay.
Well, I
That's good.
even interpret that is you do what you need to mount your windows the way it's required in the Florida product approvals and all that kind of stuff with that, and you put it on top of it, and it's going to overhang essentially your trim on your window, and that's
Emily,
it.
yes?
Yes, that is a correct interpretation
Okay.
of that, and the intent is exactly what Mr. Porter is referring to.
Okay, and you understand that intent?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily, for confusing most
I
of
know,
us.
I apologize.
Can you do me a favor, Emily, and pull up the pictures of the windows that are going in? Do we have pictures of those?
I don't have any to show you on the screen.
Okay.
But we saw them on the pictures that were passed around.
Yeah, that was,
Well,
that was the neighbor across
Or
the
at least the
street.
equivalent.
And that's
It's just-
basically
just
what
like
they
the
would look
neighbor.
like, right?
That's okay.
Pull it up on your website. Yeah,
We're-
David can pull it up on his.
We're okay, I think. The pictures that you passed around.
It's fine.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're good with that.
We've got it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sometimes we're a little slow, but we get there.
Is there any other public commentary on this? Okay, seeing none on that, we are going to close the public portion and go to the committee portion. Does the committee have any other questions regarding the request?
For approval per staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, and we are going, is there any discussion before we move to that, to the roll call? Okay, we're going to do a roll call. Myself, approve. Chris Olson,
Abstain.
Lynn Dennis,
For the motion?
Landis Fleming,
4,
Natalie Oldenkamp,
Or,
Cesar Perez,
Or.
Michael Porter.
Four.
Okay, and it is approved per the staff recommendations then. And moving on to the next one. It's the first time we've had some interesting conversations going on these. All of the others have been really simple up to this point. Next case is HPB 21-188, 625 East Lime Street. The approval to amend certificate of review for previously approved new construction project on the subject property, owner Lake Morton Apartments LLC, applicant the Lunds Group. Are there any conflicts of interest among the board?
Yes. Lunds Group is obviously my employer. I'm wearing their
the logo
polo
on your
today,
shirt.
so yes, I have to recuse myself from this one.
Okay. And Emily, would you read the staff report and recommendations, please?
Madam Chair. The subject property consists of 2 parcels, approximately .89 acres in area, located at the southwestern corner of East Lime Street and South Indiana Avenue.
Emily?
Yes.
Is it possible to move the mic closer?
Oh, sorry. I've got 2 of them. They're still not picking me up.
I know, it's like lean in. Thank you.
Alrighty. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. In January 2022, a proposed 4-story apartment building was approved with 3 conditions by the Design Review Committee. The building will contain 48 dwelling units and have a total floor area of 45,000 square feet. The design of the building reflects a neo-traditional aesthetic with roof shapes, porch, balcony, and window design, and several cladding materials, which imitate the appearance of historical architectural styles such as frame vernacular and bungalow. The horizontal massing of the building is broken by projecting porches, banding created by siding materials and paint color, and roof eaves with a wide overhang. The east and west sides of the building are punctuated by an angular projection on each side that serves the entrances into the building, while also providing visual interest to the large gable on these ends of the building. Materials approved for the exterior cladding of this building included brick veneer with a whitewash red brick, hardy panel lap siding with a 6-inch exposure, and hardy board vertical panel siding. The applicants now request to use a rusticated stucco cladding painted Plymouth brown or similar instead of the brick veneer. All other exterior cladding will remain as approved. And this is just showing you the rusticated stucco cladding on this elevation drawing. And again, the newly requested rusticated stucco here. So this request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines referenced. And staff finds that the proposed multifamily apartment building continues to meet the intent of the standards and design guidelines in terms of scale, massing, materials, orientation, setbacks, fenestration size and alignment, and neo-traditional design. The change in cladding material from brick to rusticated stucco is consistent with the historical materials and the use of stucco on adjacent buildings. In addition to the rusticated stucco that has been requested, staff recommends stucco brick as another alternative material in place of the brick cladding originally proposed and approved. So staff recommends final approval for the requested change in exterior cladding from whitewash red brick to rusticated stucco painted Plymouth brown or similar. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And is the applicant here today to speak in support of evidence in support of the request? If so, please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brittany Pravat, and I am here on behalf of our client, 58 Lake Morton Drive. I am an architect for the Lens Group, and I'm open to any questions on the material change.
Okay. I do have a question. Can you explain rustic? Oh, yes, thank you. Are there any conflicts on the board?
I already said it. Oh, see,
Yeah,
one
I
through-
was going to say, wait a minute, I already did that.
Yeah.
He's just here trying to confuse me. We went past that. Okay, on the rusticated stucco, can you explain that versus the brick veneer? Like what is, it's just stucco that has a different look?
Correct. It kind of started in the 1900s, and it is a historical material and design that started back then. And it isn't your typical stucco. It's more of like a banded stucco, and then it is kind of has like a lap, almost like the hardy board lap siding, and it can actually be imprinted as well. I actually have it at my house, and it actually was done by an artist, but it actually looks like wood, but it is stucco over block.
I was going to ask about that because it looks like boards on the
It
on the
does.
rendering.
It has a little bit of a lip at the bottom. It's still done with control joints, as stucco is done, but it provides a little bit of a different profile.
Okay. Is there any commentary from the public otherwise? Okay, any committee member questions for the applicant?
Move for approval with staff recommendation, per staff.
Yeah,
You got a question?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
The control joints, does it have vertical control
No.
joints? No. So you're allowed to go the span of it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
Architectural
I was going to ask.
details
any
are not on our
architectural
purview.
questions?
No, they will hide them if they had them. I'm just asking.
It's right up there with
curiosity
with
question.
plumbing. So now I move for approval per staff recommendation.
Second that.
don't everybody speak all at once. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion from the board? Okay, and we will vote by roll call. Myself, approve. Chris Olson.
Approve.
Lynn Dennis.
For the motion?
Landis Fleming.
Or,
Natalie Oldenkamp.
Or,
Cesar Perez.
Or
And Michael Porter abstain. And it has been approved. Thank you very much.
Very much.
And our last case today is HPB 23-098.
Already covered
We've
the
already done that.
You know,
we're
that's
done,
what happens
Melinda.
when we flip
It's in that
the
pink cup over
stuff
there.
over to the bottom. Everybody have a wonderful day in the audience, and now we are going to, we don't have any other,
Move for adjournment.
No, we need to move for adjournment.
any other business, correct?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Quickly.
And Lynn has moved for adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.
Okay.
and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just break for about 5 minutes to
Okay.
give Andrew a moment to change over the tele.